Under the unforgiving glare of the arena lights, the ring stood like a battleground carved out of silence and anticipation. The crowd murmured like a distant storm, swelling with every passing second, waiting for the moment when two undefeated warriors would collide. This was not just another bout. It was a clash of rising forces, a meeting of ambition and identity. On one side stood Khugaev, the composed technician from Russia, wrapped in white and gold, carrying the weight of an unblemished professional record and the pride of a former national champion. Across from him in black trimmed with gold was Khavasbek Asadullaev, the Southpaw sensation from Uzbekistan, an Asian continental champion whose sharpness and rhythm had already begun to turn heads across the boxing world. Two undefeated fighters, two paths converging, and only one would leave untouched. The bell had not yet rung, but the tension was already suffocating. Every breath in the arena felt heavier, every whisper sharper. This was boxing at its purest, two men stepping into the ring not just to win, but to prove something deeper. Pride, legacy, supremacy. And as the fighters touched gloves under the watchful eye of the referee, the message was clear: respect before war. What followed would not be a conversation of words, but of fists, timing and willpower. From the opening bell, the atmosphere shifted from anticipation to action in an instant. Khavasbek Asadullaev wasted no time asserting his presence, gliding forward in his southpaw stance with a predator's patience. His lead hand snapped like a whip, probing, measuring, testing the reactions of Khugaev, who stood his ground with a disciplined guard. The early exchanges were cautious yet sharp, each man searching for openings, each punch thrown with intent. Khugaev, the more compact of the two, looked to close the distance, dipping low and targeting the body with tight hooks, while Asadullaev preferred the mid-range, where his angles and timing could shine. A sudden right uppercut from Asadullaev pierced through the guard, followed by a slicing left that snapped Khugaev's head back just enough to draw a reaction from the crowd. But Khugaev answered in kind, digging a hook to the ribs, reminding his opponent that this would not be a one-sided affair. It was a chess match played at speed. Feints, counters, subtle movements of the feet, dictating the rhythm. Asadullaev's ability to make his opponent miss and immediately punish him began to emerge as a defining factor. His punches came in fluid sequences, not just single strikes, but layered attacks designed to break rhythm and confidence. By the midpoint of the opening round, it was clear. The Uzbek southpaw was not just here to compete, he was here to control. As the fight moved into the second round, the tempo quickened, and with it came a clearer picture of dominance. Khavasbek Asadullaev began to dictate the pace with increasing authority, stepping in behind his jab, and unleashing combinations that flowed effortlessly from body to head. His ringcraft was on full display, subtle pivots, sudden bursts of speed, and a constant ability to stay just out of reach, before darting back in with precision. Khugaev found himself chasing shadows at times, swinging and missing, as Asadullaev slipped and countered with surgical accuracy. A beautifully timed left cross landed flush, followed by a right hook that dug into the body, each shot echoing through the arena. Khugaev absorbed the punishment with grit, refusing to back down, but the difference in output was undeniable. Asadullaev wasn't just landing more punches, he was landing cleaner, sharper, more telling shots. The crowd began to sense the shift, their reactions growing louder with each successful exchange from the man in black and gold. Even when Khugaev managed to land a solid counter, Asadullaev responded immediately, reclaiming control and reminding everyone who was setting the terms of this fight. It was a masterclass in controlled aggression, a performance that balanced offense with intelligence. By the end of the round, the momentum was firmly in Asadullaev's corner, and Khugaev's team knew it. They needed a change, and fast. Round 3 unfolded like a continuation of the same relentless rhythm, but with even greater intensity. Khavasbek Asadullaev seemed to grow more confident with every passing second, his movements sharper, his combinations more daring. He began to experiment, doubling up on his jab, stepping in with feints before unleashing flurries that forced Khugaev onto the defensive. Khugaev, a seasoned competitor, tried to adapt, targeting the body with more urgency, hoping to slow down the relentless pace of his opponent. And for brief moments, it worked. A well-placed hook to the ribs, a stiff right hand to the body, these were the signs of a fighter refusing to be overwhelmed. But every success came at a cost. Asadullaev's counters were immediate and punishing. A slip to the outside, a pivot, and suddenly Khugaev was eating a combination he never saw coming. The Uzbek fighter's ability to string punches together, 3, 4, sometimes 5 at a time, created a rhythm that was difficult to disrupt. It wasn't just about power, it was about accumulation, about breaking down resistance piece by piece. As the round progressed, Khugaev's frustration became visible, his movements just a fraction slower, his reactions just a fraction delayed. And in boxing, fractions are everything. The bell rang, but the message was clear. Through 3 rounds, Asadullaev had built a commanding lead. But boxing is a sport defined by resilience, and round 4 marked the beginning of a shift. Khugaev emerged from his corner with renewed urgency, his body language transformed. No longer content to react, he began to initiate, stepping forward with purpose, and firing his right hand with conviction. The change was immediate. A sharp right cross landed clean, followed by a hook to the body that forced Khavasbek Asadullaev to adjust his footing. For the first time in the fight, Asadullaev found himself under sustained pressure. Khugaev increased his output, throwing in combinations, mixing head and body attacks, and forcing exchanges in close quarters. The crowd responded instantly, sensing the momentum swing. Yet even in this resurgence, Asadullaev remained dangerous. He adapted quickly, using movement and angles to disrupt Khugaev's rhythm, countering with sharp, precise shots whenever openings appeared. The round became a battle of wills, Khugaev pushing forward, Asadullaev responding with calculated resistance. It was no longer one-sided. It was competitive, tense, unpredictable. Every exchange carried weight. Every punch the potential to shift the narrative. And while Khugaev's aggression earned him success, Asadullaev's composure ensured he was never out of control. It was a reminder that in boxing, dominance can be fragile, and momentum can change in an instant. By round 5, the fight had evolved into a war of adjustments and endurance. Khugaev continued his surge, his confidence growing with every landed right hand. He targeted the body relentlessly, digging hooks beneath the elbows, investing in shots that could pay dividends in the closing stages. Khavasbek Asadullaev, sensing the danger, responded with bursts of his own, quick combinations that served both as offense and deterrent. The exchanges became fiercer, more frequent, each man refusing to yield ground. Khugaev's right hand emerged as a key weapon, repeatedly finding its mark and drawing reactions from the crowd. But Asadullaev's resilience shone through. Even when backed up, he found ways to counter, slipping punches and firing back with precision. The fight had reached its most intense phase, a clash of styles, of strategies, of sheer determination. Both fighters were now operating on instinct as much as strategy, their bodies pushed to the limit. Sweat flew with every exchange, breaths grew heavier, but neither man showed signs of surrender. This was boxing in its rawest form, a test of heart as much as skill. And as the bell rang to end the 5th, one question lingered in the air. Had Khugaev done enough to close the gap, or was Asadullaev still ahead? The final round arrived with everything still hanging in the balance. Khavasbek Asadullaev, perhaps sensing his earlier advantage, adopted a more controlled approach, mixing movement with sharp counters, even allowing flashes of showmanship to creep into his performance. A brief shuffle, a confident smile, signs of a fighter who believed he was in control. But Khugaev was not done. He pressed forward, unleashing combinations, targeting the body, and searching for a moment that could change everything. The exchanges were electric, back and forth bursts of punches that had the crowd on its feet. A heavy hook from Khugaev was met with a crisp counter from Asadullaev. A flurry from Asadullaev was answered by a determined response from Khugaev. It was a fitting finale to a contest defined by skill and spirit. As the seconds ticked away, both fighters dug deep, throwing everything they had left. The bell rang, and for a moment the arena fell into a stunned silence, before erupting into applause. They had witnessed something special, a fight that delivered on every promise. When the final bell echoed into history, both men stood in the center of the ring, breathing heavily, their bodies marked by the battle they had just endured. The judges' scorecards would decide the outcome, but the respect between the fighters was already evident. Khavasbek Asadullaev raised his arms cautiously, confident yet composed, while Khugaev waited with quiet intensity. The announcement came. Asadullaev, the Southpaw from Uzbekistan, declared the winner by points. A deserved victory, built on a strong start and sustained by composure under pressure. Khugaev, valiant in defeat, had shown heart and determination, especially in the later rounds, but the early deficit proved too much to overcome. It was a lesson in timing, in urgency, in the importance of every single round. As the crowd applauded both warriors, the narrative was clear. One fighter had seized the moment early, the other had chased it late. And in boxing as in life, timing is everything. The gladiator from Uzbekistan walked away with his record intact, his reputation elevated, and his journey continuing upward. But for both men, this was more than just a fight. It was a chapter in a story still being written. A reminder that greatness is forged not just in victory, but in the battles that define you.